to take the roving and I'm going to split it up into roughly 2 pieces, okay? This piece I'm going to leave just as it is from the roving, and I'm just going to swirl it up. I want to show you the difference that your felting will take on when you go with adding a lot of fiber all at once, like we're doing right here, as opposed to adding it a little at a time. So I want to do this first. Here is taking just the roving as it is, not pulling it apart to open it up, not getting it to come together anyway except by just having all this bulk here all at once. And you can see that I'm struggling to keep a little bit of control here. Now the other thing that's happening is that I'm having to come in from a lot of different angles. And that's not a bad thing in and of itself, but when you come in at angles, when you've got a big piece of roving, you take the chance that you're going to get your fingers and, you know, just take a little bite on your fingertips. So it's a little problematic working like this. What I like to do instead is work a little bit at a time. So I'm going to split this up into several smaller bits. And then I'm going to even draft it out further. Drafting is just taking the fiber along the length of the roving and just pulling it a little bit more apart. It's opening up those fibers. I'm still going to wrap it the same way, only this time I've got a much smaller piece. It's easier to control. The fibers have been opened up so that they can come together with the other fibers that are next to them a little easier than what they could in that big bulky piece of roving. And I'm going to continue wrapping this around. And now let's see what happens when we come in with our needle. We can see almost an immediate change in the fibers. We can see where they're coming together, where they're flattening down and joining with the other fibers that are around them. Just with these few strokes with the needle, I'm able to lift this entirely and have it still hold together pretty well without having to worry about it coming apart. With this one, I didn't even get down to the bottom because I was worried about getting the top fibers to attach. So I can switch it, flip it over to the downside, the back side, and do the same thing with my needle. Just go all around the area, just a really quick pass, and just like that, it's holding together nicely. So I can take another bit of roving, and again, I'm going to draft this out because I want to have as much open fibers as possible. When you get a roving process, sometimes those fibers will be really close together and they'll be really compact, and you want to open those up so that they can interconnect with the fibers that are going to be around them. And so now I'm going to wrap it the same way. And we're going to put it right on top of what we've already felted. And we can build up to a piece that's this large just by working it a little bit at a time to get those fibers to interconnect, and it'll be a stronger piece because we've added fibers a little bit at a time. And we're almost there. And you see, it's really the same size. We're going to come in here and we're just going to stab it down into the piece that's already partially felted underneath. We're just running a quick pass. And even just with those few bits of stabbing all the way around, we have it connecting with that piece that we started on earlier. And we can lift it up, and then we're ready to add another piece on this side. And then we'll have a piece that's almost the same size as this large roving bit, but it's going to be holding together much better because we opened up those fibers and we allowed them space to interconnect with the other fibers that were next to them. It's all about building those connections and making sure that we have a strong piece of felt when we're done, because we have opened the felt up and we've been able to build the connections and make the felt even stronger. And so I'm wrapping it around again. We're going to add this one on top. And as you're watching me add this fiber to the next level, I want you to take a look at my hand. I have found a comfortable position for me to hold my needle in my 10 plus years of needle felting, and it works for me, and I think it works for just about anybody. I like to hold the top of my needle where the little right angle is between my finger and my thumb, my index finger and my thumb, and then I like to put one or two of my other fingers right along the shaft. Not down so far that it's on the part of the needle that is has got the barbs around it, but close, so that I've got nice control. And when I have the needle in this position, I can stab away without worrying about going astray. I've got a good control over my tool, and it's able to go exactly where I want it to go. See how close I'm getting to my finger? I can even go all the way around my finger without biting it because I've got control over that needle. And that is beautiful for working any needle felting project. Now I'm going to continue to work this, but I want you to now pay attention. I'm going to try and move this up. I want you to look at my wrist. And you see how I'm keeping my wrist pretty much straight, and the movement that's coming from my hand to help that needle pounce up and down is coming from my elbow. Our elbow was designed to do this up and down motion. If we try and do this with our wrist, we're going to find ourselves getting an awful lot of discomfort going on in our wrist. You could even find yourself injuring your wrist by doing that. Use your elbow. It was designed to do this pouncing motion up and down. Now, the other thing that you'll see from me is that even when I come in at angles, I come into the fiber and go out of the fiber the same direction. So if I'm going into the fiber at an angle, I'm not changing my mind and bending and coming out at a different angle. I'm coming out of the fiber at that same angle. And the reason I do that is to make sure that my needle is going to be strong and work until it actually works the barbs off. Yes, you can needle felt with a needle long enough to do that. It takes a long time, but I have done it, and I've thrown away the needles because they've been perfectly smooth. But you've got to come out of the fiber the same direction you go into the fiber. Otherwise, you're going to either bend the tip of that needle or you're going to break it off. Bending it, can you still use it? Sometimes. I've worked with bent needles before because I had no other option. But it's not an easy thing to do because you've got to figure out, okay, how am I going to use this bent needle so that it can go into the fiber without causing any more damage and make it actually work for me. So in this little video, you've gotten Anna's 3 basic rules of needle felting. And you've also seen some suggestions for how to build up your fibers slowly to create your piece, and going back and forth and all the way around what you're working on to make sure that you're interconnecting those fibers in as many ways as possible. And I hope you've had a good time. I hope you've learned a little something about teaching yourself how to needle felt, and we'll see you later.